But I just want to dive in and start by talking about Siri shortcuts because I made a video this last week that was about iPad OS. It was about how to get the most out of it, like how I'm using it, what was my workflow and my tips and techniques kind of to get the most out of the iPad. And specifically, I was working on an iPad Pro, but really it was stuff that would work on any iPad because iPad OS, anything new enough to run that. And so right at the beginning of the video, I was talking about a Siri shortcut that I made. I was talking about several, and what I did was I blew up all the Siri shortcuts that I had in the past, got rid of all that legacy stuff, started over, and I was like, what can I do to make this experience better? And one of the first things that I talked about was a shortcut that I ended up making to instantly connect to my AirPods or to my Beats or whatever Bluetooth listening device I was using. And it's like, all of a sudden, this is like the greatest thing that I've ever said on Daily Tech, on the channel ever. People went nuts about this. And of course, they wanted the shortcut. And I commented to as many people as I could. I couldn't possibly respond to everybody. But yeah, I mean, it turns out like this is something that people really, really wanted because it was something that they were running into. And it was born out of a frustration that I was having. And, it's not like a big deal, but it's just a little nice convenience. And that was, I switch between listening to my AirPods on so many different devices, my iPhone or the Apple TV, or, an iPad, whatever, my Mac. And so I was getting sick of like going into the settings, going into Bluetooth, selecting it, waiting for it to connect or whatever. I know there's other ways to do it. I've covered a lot of those in tips videos and whatever, but so I was like, I wonder if there's a way to sit down and instantly connect to my AirPods. And this is a great point, a great tip for people moving forward. When you have a need for something, when you think to yourself, the instant that you in your mind, you're like, I wonder if there's a better way to do whatever it is, then there probably is. And you could probably do it with shortcuts. So there's like a million different tips, for shortcuts and people, can throw out their favorite shortcuts, or there's even like some galleries out there that just collect really good shortcuts and stuff and try to make it really easy for you to find and use. And Apple in the app itself, in the shortcuts app, like there's a gallery and you can browse through it. And the problem with that, though, of those approaches, like a gallery or someone else's list of shortcuts, is like you have to sit there and look at the shortcut and you might find something and be like, well, yeah, that actually is pretty cool. But it's like, what do I do with it? You have to imagine different ways that you can actually put it to use. And so that actually ends up not being very usable. I had a bunch of shortcuts in my shortcuts app and widgets and stuff that I had found like in the gallery or that people had suggested, but that weren't actually applicable to me, like in my daily use and my workflow. And so what I'm saying is the instant that you hear your head be like, this isn't as good as it could be, I wonder if there's a better way, that's when you go into shortcuts and you make your own shortcut, which is not as hard as it sounds. Trust me. Let's talk about that. So in my instance, I was like, I want to connect my AirPods. So I headed into the shortcuts app, I launched it, and I tapped on the plus button to add a new shortcut. And then you just start searching around in the apps and extensions or whatever category there. You don't want to search in the gallery. You want to search after you hit that plus button, kind of down at the bottom of the screen on your iPhone. And then I started searching for anything that was sort of like related, because I'm not a programmer, right? And, I can't do like what if this and that. That's not like my kind of a thing, right? I'm more of a consumer type of person, just like you guys probably. And so I was searching for AirPods, found nothing. And I searched for Bluetooth, found the wrong kind of stuff. But then I searched for AirPlay, and that is when I struck gold. And so what that does is really simple, brings up a little command or action, and you select the output device that you want the audio to be piped out to. So it just shows you like a list of all the stuff that you have ever connected there or whatever is paired or has been paired, and select AirPods or select your Beats Solo Pros or whatever you got going on. You can select HomePod, any of your audio stuff, and save it, name it, save it, give it an icon so you know about it, and you can arrange it in your widget there on iPadOS. And what's really cool now that we're out of the betas is that all those shortcuts and the widgets sync across my devices and your devices. So as soon as I set this up on my iPad, which was in the video, boom, there it was on my iPhone too. And I'm using it there all the time as well. So yeah, what I'm saying is a lot of the things in my life that end up being super useful are not things that just happened in an instant. And oftentimes that's the way that my brain works. It's like, go out and search for some new shortcuts because you need to be using it, but that's not really what happens. And I can't do the same thing when I'm making content and be like, go out and find some really great AirPods tips to share and make into a video. Like, that's not the way to make good content either. The really good stuff, the best stuff that I've put out on the channel is the stuff that I discovered or created or whatever because I had an actual use for it or a need. And the thing was, everybody else did too, and they really liked it. That's why this particular shortcut really resonated with people, is because they also wanted to easily connect their AirPods to whatever. And so, yeah, that's what I would encourage you to do. The next time that you're doing something on your iPhone or on your iPad and you're like, man, I wonder if it could be better, that's when to get into shortcuts. And I think that's honestly the best way to get something out of shortcuts, because there are some cool stuff in the gallery. One of my favorite things is the dictate and share shortcut. And when I found that, what it does is let you, voice something, and so dictate it, and then it copies to the clipboard, and you can then share it to wherever. And the second I saw it, when shortcuts first came out, that was one of the feature things, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, I think I could use that for something. But then I couldn't actually find any uses for it. It was just cluttering up my shortcuts. But later, and so I guess it doesn't hurt to be familiar with what's in the gallery, because if you go through there and you kind of have it in the back of your mind, later I did find a use for it. Like, someone on the team here was like, hey, what do I say to this person in this email? And in the past, I've like walked over and we've discussed it, or I've like typed it out like on the computer or whatever. But the other day I was like, oh yeah, dictate and share. And I popped in, reloaded that shortcut. And now when somebody asks me something like that, I just voice my actual words, the correct response, and share it. Whether it's AirDrop, email, text, whatever. And it's now that was an awesome addition to shortcuts. But if I had just been browsing through the gallery, it wouldn't really have struck me how to use it. I would have been like, oh, that seems like it's cool, but I didn't know how to use it. But later, when I ran into a situation where I was like, this could be better, there's got to be a better way, that's when I went to shortcuts. So that's the lesson for you guys. And I will make a video on shortcuts, more like the ones I use and whatever, but I'm just saying, I think the best way for you is over a long period of time to build up some shortcuts when you have those moments, because that's what's been working really well for me.